All right, exciting day on our back-to-back Thursday. We have a fantastic guest here today, Coach Dawn Carpell. She's the head coach of St. John Vianney basketball, women's basketball, and let's just talk about her accomplishments before I allow her to really go into her background. But she's won over 500 games as a coach. I think it's 7 state championships at this point. She's coached the McDonald's All American game, been the head coach, I think, for the East team. That's just some of the accomplishments that she has. Dozens and dozens and dozens of Division One athletes and college players that have gone on under her tutelage. So it's really a pleasure to have on a living legend with us, Coach Carpel. Although I know you don't want that yet because you're too young. You're too young, so you're too young for that moniker. But what you've accomplished is obviously fantastic.
Thanks guys for having me on, man. I'm excited.
Coach, talk about your playing background and kind of how you came to SJV and really built up the program and kind of that whole process for you.
All right. Yeah, super cool. I actually was an alumni of SJV and played in the early 90s. That's like kind of when the little dynasty started. Got in there. They had won one TOC, and then the group that I came in with, we won over 100 games, 4 state championships, 2 TOCs, 3 short conference tournaments. We just killed it and kind of helped establish. And the 90s was quite an era. I think we won 9 out of 10 state championships in the 90s. And Nick Russo, who's going to be coaching with me in the All-Star game, McDonald's game, he was my coach. He's the coach over at Colts Neck now. He took a couple years off, and now he's back into it. So it was awesome. And then I went on, played college ball. Kind of always knew I wanted to be a coach. Didn't know kind of where that would pan out. Came back, did a couple of years at Homedale High School, kind of broke in there and really kind of learned how to coach. And then the opportunity opened up, 2007. I went back to SJV, so I'm in my 18th year now. No idea that I would be there as long as I have been, but definitely haven't really moved on. But I really kind of fell in love with just the age group, the process, and helping, girls become women, so to speak. But I'm not big on that, but more just teaching them and growing them to be the best that they can be. And, really send them off to college as a product, that they can go and play on the next level is something that I pride myself on in a big way, for sure.
It's amazing what you've built. And obviously you're part of it as a player, and then obviously building it yourself as a coach. And SJV has really built this tradition of I always say women's basketball because I run a podcast with the UConn, one of the UConn former women's, and it's women's basketball in high school. It's obviously girls basketball still,
but sure.
But with women's basketball, and really built the tradition there, built a launching point for so many girls for their college career, and really also helping them through a critical kind of stage of their life, obviously high school. Talk about kind of what your philosophy was when you took over the program, because it had been obviously was a very good program, and now you've come in and elevated to levels that people can only dream of. But talk about, when you came in and what your philosophy was and what you were looking to really kind of get accomplished in your program.
Yeah, for sure. Early on, actually when I first took it over, we maybe had a down year or two in the school standards. But I went in and kind of really did a lot of early of this is how the model was when I played, and we had really good star players, but the pieces around them, parts were greater than the whole, and everybody had to play a role. And as a coach, I think it's so funny when you get into roles and defining them, because you can, in the beginning of the year as a coach, have a thought on what you think, but then as the season unfolds, everybody's roles kind of evolve, and you just figure it out. and then you got to get the kids to buy into like doing what you want them to do. So that was kind of a little bit of a very early philosophy, is that like, we're all in this, and the top player on the team is as important as like the bottom, and it's like an all-in kind of thing, and then gradually, as I started to like get successful, I felt a lot of, I don't want to say jealousy, but there was definitely like kind of, I don't want to say we're the evil empire, but a little bit of like, people.
Oh, yes, you are. You're the evil empire. Hell yeah, you are. You're gonna get you're getting everybody's best, and everybody wants to define their season. They could go 1-28, and if they beat SJV, or shit at this point, even if they play SJV close, right? Like that's kind of that could be a staple for a coach to now get another job, because hey, we played SJV tight. Like but
sure.
you definitely are.
Yeah, and that kind of also now became something that like not us against the world, but definitely like it's us, our family, and that's it. So like you when you step on the court, I definitely have my girls really definitely carry a little bit of that like chip on their shoulder. And I'm not gonna like go and bash, but also being a female coach and having that success, there's a lot of kind of others that just didn't really want to respect that a female was able to like do that. So and there was, especially early in my career, a lot of my girls started to be like, Coach, they can't talk to you like that. Like, so there was also like we kind of got into a little bit of like the female empowerment piece, but like the girls definitely know that's something that they're carrying out there as well. So and then from there it kind of just I've been blessed. I get like to coach best of the best, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's important. Like the kids that come in and choose to play for us, I want the highest quality kids and on and off the court. And we've been really, really lucky to be able to do that, and have the right families that come in, and they also like and I'm very clear when they're middle schoolers and they're considering to come to St. John Vianney, like there's expectations here. And, your kid is not going to be the superstar. They're going to be a part of something better and bigger. But I can assure you that, like, I'm going to coach them, and my staff, we're going to coach them really hard. And we're going to prepare them not just to be successful on high school level, but, like, we're pushing them. And my kids really do excel at the next level. And I'm going to say, like, I really do believe it's because when you get to college, right, you have to be in a role. Like, you're not the stud all the time. Like my kids go and they understand that college work because they already done it on the high school level of like being on a team and being in a program versus just being a superstar.
Right.
Well, yeah, the expectations are already been set to them. So when they go in, it's not, they don't have to learn that expectation, that they've already had that of them. And even if they were a top player, they're humble to the sense that they're part of something bigger. So when they go to college, when that obviously indeed is going to be the case for sure, they're already prepared from that standpoint. And I think we talked about too about when you said you took over in 2007 was the year you took over. Yeah. I mean, what you built in really kind of a short time period. You're really among the first female coaches to really have an extreme level. And there's people that have had levels of success, but extreme level of success. And I think you're right. I think there is a something that not only that the girls can learn from you from that standpoint as a woman, that whereas probably was male dominated when you came in there. I'm sure it still is probably still primarily male dominated, but there are a lot more women now coaching in 2025 than there were back in 2007 when you took over.
Oh, hell yeah.
And especially the prominence of the program that you took over too. But there's a lot that the girls can learn from that aspect. Talk about how you because you had to pave your own path. You know what I mean? How did you figure out like how to handle some of these things and how to pave your own path along the way, and some of the hurdles that you may have come across?
Yeah. I don't know if that's a loaded question, and
That is a that's a loaded question. Shit, we could this could be a Rolodex.
Yeah, there's just like a lot. I mean, a lot of it was I just used my instincts and I used my
Right.
gut. I'm really lucky. My husband, super supportive. Actually, side pieces. Both my daughters got to play for me. One went on, played at Fordham, and did a fifth year at U Albany, and my other one's up at Fairfield now as a freshman. So, I kind of definitely had his support. And sometimes I would be like, am I coming from the wrong place? He's like, no, man, like that's not right, and like you should definitely like defend yourself or speak up about it. And so it kind of I love the fact that he was so supportive. He's a baseball coach. He's a teacher. He kind of gets it. But yeah, there's definitely like been some situations, whether it's over gym time or just out in the world of like the coaches kind of, I don't know, I call it like the coffee club of certain coaches. I'm not in that. I'm on an island. But you know what? It like has so worked for me because my girls know that I'm not included in those things and that like we're just gonna go over here and we're gonna do it the way we're gonna do it. And yeah, like not a big old, but whatever. Like I don't really need everybody else's like I don't need your praise. I don't need your like permission to go and do it. Like this is just how we're gonna operate, and I've always tried to do it in a respectful way, but also
of course.
like so there's definitely a little bit of that like chip on the shoulder piece that we kind of carried, and the girls definitely now they're coming back and a lot of them go on to be like leaders in their professions, but that's just a direct correlation to like sports and women's in sports, like being able to do that for sure.
Well, I think leadership is a huge part of obviously what you do, and as a coach, and as far as being able to help them, but not just for obviously as a player, but whatever they do next, a post player becomes a big deal. And one of the things that I'm sure you have is players come back and say, I didn't understand exactly what you were trying to get across at that time period,
Yeah.
but I do understand it now. 5 years from now, when I had to deal with X or I had to deal with Y, and I do understand it, and I think that's the good part about it. And I think what from an outsider looking in, and what you've been able to do is while they're in it, even if they don't necessarily 100% understand it, they're willing to follow your lead through that because they know it's going to get them to where they want to be as a player and hopefully as a person. And I think that's a really, really interesting part. Now, did you you have a natural killer instinct as a coach, and your players follow that. Like there's no doubt about it. Do you work on those things with your players every day in practice, as far as like things you do, drills you do, mental? What are some of the things that you do with them to really kind of build that within them?
Well, like like I said, I think I do get like kids that have that inner drive, right? Like I think that's fortunate in that. But two, you also have to cultivate it a little bit. And like we pride ourselves, so we're a deep team, right? I get kids, they got to play their role. Some of them have to develop. They don't really get huge roles till junior, senior year, which in today's world is almost impossible to get everybody on board with that, right? But the other piece is that like you're going to compete every day in practice. So every day. And we try, like I definitely have like our core shell drill, 20 minutes of like you lose, you run, like, and we give points out. And I'm very defensive based, so we definitely try to build out toughness, whether it's rebounding or loose balls and just kind of get them. And this year, honestly, the team I have, we're kind of in a transition year and we have a lot of talent, but they're learning how to compete and they're getting better. But like, I had to get my freshmen and sophomores to a certain level. Now that we're hitting playoffs, I'm praying that we got them at least to the part where they can be competitive when they step on the court. So yes, I think like competition in practice, and I kind of breed that and coach them up on that to hone in on like being as competitive as you can be each time you're out there. That is a huge thing. And I've had some really, really competitive kids and competitive groups that like they'll kill you, and then there's other kids that you have to pull it out of them, you have to grow it, you have to figure out like what makes them tick. And this year's group, it's running. They don't want to run, so like we've kind of figured out that like they're going to run a lot if they're not kind of competing,
Right,
Right.
That's kind of it, so I don't know if that's an answer for you or not, but that's just kind of how it goes.
Well, I also think, Don, like, for a team where, we're talking the highest level players coming in as they come in, they haven't really been challenged as much in practice, coming up. And once they get to SJV, they realize real quick, like every day is a competition and every day you're battling. And look, I've been on the sidelines for some of those practices, and I'm telling you, they are intense as games. And we've been talking to a lot of, coaches and a lot more guys with a philosophy of mimic practice as a game, as close to that as you can get, whether it's through drill work, whether it's through true, actual playing within practice itself. And that, I think, is something that maybe you were a little bit ahead of the curve when it came to that, kind of fostering that and getting the younger players to understand that competition within practice and mimicking game situations can get us where we need to be faster, and I think that's something that's a key part of your program that maybe some other schools don't have the opportunity to do that because, that depth really isn't what it is. Or, you have those players at the end of the bench that are, they go in when they go in, and you have that from top to bottom. And I think that's what kind of separates your program from others.
Yeah. And, that's been like kind of our tradition. And I don't know even how it happened, how it occurred. Like, it's just like, hey, if we have 8 kids, we're going to run with 8. If I have 11 that can ball, like I'm going to get you out there. If you can ball,
right,
you show me it, I'm going to play 11 of you,
100%.
Like, and you're right. Like my TOC, like my 2022 team, I got off of that team. We won the whole thing. We were top 4 in the country. And 10 of those girls are playing Division I right now. I got one that's like going to be maybe player of the year in the Patriot League. Then we got Zoe Brooks, who's playing on the Final Four last year. Like,
good.
Maddie St. Rose, all Patriot League. She all Ivy. I mean, she hurt her knee this year, but like, so like I have kids going and they're getting it done at levels, different levels, all of them at different levels. But when they were in the gym, I played them all. Like, they got out there, they got run, and they were competing. So like, it definitely is pride for me, like to see them go on to the next level and be that successful, but also like, hey, they learned how to work back when. So like,
absolutely,
that's going to translate to the next level.
Right. It seems like that's their reward too, is that if you're good enough to get on the court, you get, no matter what your time period that you're on, you're given like 100%, 100 miles an hour. And you're going full speed. And if we could play 11, that's great. If we could play 8, that's great. Whatever it takes to be able to get that. But when you go in there, it's full speed. It's everything you have. And when you have more, obviously it's great because you can rest a couple of people here and there, right? So, so that allows you to get them even more out of them. When you, it's interesting because you talked about like competition, and I've heard Gino back in like the late 90s and early 2000s talk about how that was such a big part of what he was doing when he was building that dynasty at UConn. And you've done that really successfully at SJV. When you see like recruiting now and kind of some of the and it may not affect your team, but when you see some of the shifts with everything with transfer portals and NIL, I'm curious if you're seeing some impact as to, I don't know, whether it's your girls getting recruited or people coming around the program. Has that had an impact on what you guys are doing at all, or or things you have to deal with?
No, but it's evolving. I would say,
Okay.
like, so the studs are the studs, right? And the colleges are going to be on those kids regardless, right? Like, so, like my top kids. The problem is, like, now with the rule kids, it's getting harder, because they want kids that are coming in, if not going into the transfer portal, and they're just going to grab kids that already have college experience versus taking a chance on a kid that might just be a role kid or a roster kid. And so it depends on the program that's recruiting. Some coaches, and I'm going to say this, like, not in a bad way, but I'm going to say probably your older, more experienced college coaches still value the kids that are kind of going to come in and develop, and that can be role kids. But some of our younger college coaches are kind of on that I want to say get rich quick, but
that's exactly what it is, right? Like, that's exactly what it is. They know that if they don't win right now, that they're going to be gone in 2 years. So they would rather go and grab a transfer girl, right? That has college tape, has college minutes, can understand that, rather than, take your quote, like, in football, we call them tweeners, right? Like the guy that you're going to need to develop for a year or 2 years, that it's going to be in your program kid, ton of those. That's not happening anymore.
No, and that's kind of where the evolution is. So now we got to kind of look at, like, the academic, and that's the other kind of huge thing that I haven't touched on, is a lot of my kids are academic kids. We had like a big run of kids in Patriot League, Ivy, just like they're gonna put it's not about P4, or it's like give me the best deal where I can get the best education and
NYU. Right.
A good basketball experience, like, exactly that kind of stuff. So now it's just kind of educating the families on, like, let's see what the best route is for you. You know what I mean? Like, yes, we think it could be this, but do you want to, like, substitute and go to a lesser school, or you want to go to a higher academic school, depending on the level of play? So it definitely is evolving. I don't know if it's all good or bad, but it's definitely even changed. Now the NIL stuff, you go to a little lower level and you kill it, cash in, move up.
Yeah. Shit. I mean, we would have done it, right? Like, if you have that opportunity, it's hard, especially depending where you're coming from and your family and all those other kind of things that go into it. David, we talk about it all the time. I mean, how can you tell a kid no, right? Because you never know what tomorrow. You blow out a knee, you're done. There's that opportunity gone. It's kind of, like you said, evolving and seeing where it all goes and playing it out. And look, we always talk about the big sports, right? It's football, it's men's basketball, it's women's basketball. Like, those three drive this entire market for whatever comes down the road. And it's kind of a place right now that's kind of in flux. You don't really know where it's going to go. You got to kind of feel it out and just kind of ride it and go along with it.
Yeah, 100%. And actually a couple college coaches have gone that route and be like, hey, come here, I'll develop you for a year or two, and you got to move on. But, like, give me the love here a little bit.
100%.
Super successful on my level. And, there's a couple college coaches that are taking that kind of.
Well, because in their eyes, right, like, it's a bonus to them too, because that adds prominence to their program. Like, look, you come here for a year and now you go next level. Like, look, we've already seen this happen. It could happen for you. So, look, if you do it the other way, you're going to get them and they're going to leave anyway. So you might as well embrace it and roll with it if it's a route that you're okay taking. It's a way to do it, right? There's multiple ways to skin the cat, right, and win. So that's a road. That's an option.
It is, for sure.
What have you seen as far as, like, the players that come to you now, like, their path and kind of their development before they get to you? So what have you seen, and what kind of are you looking for in their skill sets development wise that you think they should be doing before they come to SJV as a person that's a possible athlete that can come and play for you?
Yeah, and I run a youth program. I have a little AU program. I mean, I started 2010, and I'm a big fundamental basics, like that. I'm old school, coach when it comes to that. But it's evolving, and it's not in a good way. I'm kind of, like, disappointed in the lack of skill and the lack of development that's happening on the youth level, and the lack of teaching that's occurring. honestly, it's just the mixtape generation. You
Right.
know, like this is so funny. I'm starting to plug my AU tryouts out for my little ones. I have a fourth grade parent sending me like highlights of a fourth grader. Like what? Like what is going? Like no, just having fun, making friends. Do like learning a little bit and like it just is next level. But and the other part of it is like yes, you're getting that highlight of Susie, draining a three or whatever, doing a euro or whatever they're doing. But like, are they learning how to like really play the game? And, so sometimes even with my little AU program, I'll have people bounce because they want to go win or travel more or spend more money at the big tournaments in middle school and fine, like go
Sound familiar, Dave? Sound familiar?
Yeah, I know. We
go chase it. But like when they're getting to me, like I was on a rant like a week ago, and I said to my high school girls, I'm like, I feel bad for you. I feel bad because you're 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and I'm just teaching this to you now. This is stuff like you should already have in your. And I'm not talking about skills. I'm just talking about like the game understanding.
Right.
That like the bigger part of it of like where you should be on the court and how to run.
Right.
I don't know, just like, it's just a little bit of the youth sports. My dad officiates. I'm good. My dad officiates, and he comes back. He does mostly middle school now. He's older, and he's just like like the
it's a mess.
Yeah, but it's like a lot of daddy ball.
Of course.
Oh shit.
And
Dave has a 10-year-old, so he gets it.
Right,
he's literally in that world. Like it's mind-boggling.
Right, and I would say even like from when I was in that world, my daughters, I coached them coming up, but I was from then, like over the last 8 years, like I don't know if it's because of COVID or what, but it's just definitely like turned and not in a like great way, in my opinion.
Well, one of the things I always say is that there's a difference between daddy ball and a dad who is a coach, who's coaching, meaning coaching all the kids, trying to get all the kids better, versus daddy ball where the coach is the head coach, but he's just coaching that person who's their kid. That's it. Like, and everybody else is just a byproduct of the whole entire thing, 100%. Right? So it doesn't help anybody from that standpoint. And then I see it now because it's funny because obviously I was a high school football coach for a long time, and I didn't have a child, and I didn't have a child until I was 41, right? So I was coaching forever. Right. And then all of a sudden now I'm in the youth part of it, which I was not originally was definitely not mentally ready for. So
like holy, oh my god!
I'm like, well, you're almost like, am I the crazy one, or like because I don't understand what's going on here, and and you're actually made to feel that way if you're thinking about it the right way. You're made to feel that you're thinking about it the wrong way. So, but it's interesting because one of the things I noticed, and this is so hard to find, one of the things I noticed at the youth level, and take out the part where they should have fun and all that kind of stuff, because that's 100% should be part of what they're doing, because they're around their friends when they're playing, right? So, but the other part is if you want to go and get skills better, like me and Derek talk about this all the time, like your kid is a football player or a basketball player, and you want to get skills, and you really want, like, they want to learn the position or the sport they're playing. It's so hard to find people that will actually they just want to have 50 people in a group and just run through basic stuff. Not basic stuff's good, but there's no individualization, right? There's no development, right? So it's just everybody run through these things and no one's really paying attention to you. And I always say that's great at a summer camp. That's fine. You're running a summer camp for 4 days where you're having, but when you're actually going to train and you want to like learn specific skills, and there's not. I've noticed at the younger level, and only because I was a coach for a long time at the high school level, and I was an NFL agent, and I worked with like a lot of high level people. And then all of a sudden I had a kid that was brought into the youth level and was like shocked. I was shocked. So I was so shocked at how little everyone wants to actually work on skills and work on improvement. And they're like, oh, well, my kid's not good at X. I'm like, well, you have to actually like practice X to get good at X.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, or if you want to learn how to shoot, right, and let's say your child is shooting and he's pushing the ball and you know he's not actually shooting the ball, you actually learn how to shoot. You know, if you just let them push the ball around, I mean, that's okay when they're younger. But like if you just let them continue to push the ball around, they're going to push the ball around until they're 8th grade, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're like, why aren't they able to make a team or anything like that? But I am shocked at how little overall people that are out there that go and do development and are willing to do development. Everyone just wants to play in a team.
Yep.
Play as many games as humanly possible. And the games are great. Like I always say, games are great. Listen, we have fun. We enjoy the games. We love competition. But there has to be the balance of development, right? Because the balance of development is what enables you to say, okay, from game 1 to game 21, I got better.
Yep.
You know, not game 1, I was doing this, and I'm still doing this in game 21.
I tell my parents, even in the AU, I'm like, listen, if you play if you go on a tournament for the weekend, you have 4 games, you should be going 2-2, 2-1, 3-1. Like, you shouldn't be going 4-0. If you're going 4-0, you're smoking everybody by 20. You're getting nothing out of it.
What are you getting? What are you getting from that?
But some parents and some people, like, they're all in on the game model. And this is what we're going to do.
All that matters.
We're using this to build you out and to teach you, and you might lose it, but that's fine because they're learning how to compete. They're learning. There's just so much that goes to it. So I'm not saying all games are bad, but and this is the other part. If I practice versus a game, they're picking the game every day of the week.
Every time.
The kids, so some of them play on 2 or 3 teams, and I'm like, what do you, just kind of get locked in.
It seems to me like they fear losing when they're
so
young.
Much.
They fear losing when they're young, and then what happens is when you start to go to higher levels of competition, you're going to lose. I mean, eventually you're going to lose, right?
It's inevitable.
And they don't know how to handle it because they think that everything is just a win, right? Everything is just and learning to lose. Like sometimes playing a team that's above your weight, you know what I mean, is a good thing. Sometimes playing a team below your weight builds confidence, right? But you need to have the balance of it to figure out. How else do you know what you need to work on, right? Like you could physically, as a young kid, dominate a team because you're physically superior and you're not any good. You literally could be not any good. I mean, I don't want to poke fun at Asia Reese because she's obviously a pro, but I always say Asia Reese is getting her own layups a lot of times, right? Now she's an unbelievable athlete. But there are some skills that she really needs to develop, because she could be beyond. She could really be an elite basketball player. But there's a lot of things that she was probably so athletically superior, so physically superior that when people are on her now about some of her skills, she's probably like, "What are they talking about?" Because she was so much. She was that athletic. Freak, she really was big, strong, fast. She happens to be a very attractive woman. A lot of things worked in her favor, right? So all of a sudden, you get a skill set that you don't have, and you're like, "Why does everyone think I'm not good at something?" Right? And I think that's one of the things that we miss at the youth level. It's like we want, you can make practice fun, right, with different competition drills and stuff, but it's important to develop the skill set. Because then the parents and the kid are clueless when Dawn Carpell doesn't want them to play in their team. Is not a person that's good enough to play for SJV, and they're in shock by that. Well, it's not just about your actual size and all that, but your mentality coming in. You have girls that are coming in that are going to have a better mentality as far as what they're looking to accomplish, right? So. It's not just about how can you drop 30, right?
It's huge. What you're saying is huge, and that's always like the unknown quantity that I say when they're in middle school. Like, hey, are they going to do it for you?
How do you figure that out?
I'll figure it out when I get them in here and I see them compete every day. Like, do they have the mantra or like the oomph to because you're right. Sometimes there's kids that are super skilled and they're able to do certain things really are super athletic. But then they don't know this part of it. So there is a lot that goes into that, so that's always the unknown though. It's like, how do they compete and how are they going to be when they're in that most competitive type environment and how are they going to respond? So that's a great point. I love it.
How do they measure up when everyone on the court is the best player, right? And we see it all the time, when guys, are geographically, right? Like, hey, I was the best player here. And it's like, look, you got to understand there's 49 other states, right? And that's just talking on a national state level, right? And especially when it comes to football, like, I'm great in the Shore Conference, but break out, buddy, and look at all this other shit. And this dude down in Georgia, yeah, man. And that's really it's really tough when we get them and they're already in high school and we are now the bad guy having to give them that honest, hey, this is really where I think you fit. Like, you're not going to Alabama, or I don't think you're going to make it. Like, maybe you're a Division III player. Like, that's the end of the world. But because they've been built up and told or only been exposed to this little nook that it is, right, that little protective bubble, like, you got to get out. You got to see what else is out there. And then how do you respond to that, right? It's why we see so many guys go away and play college ball and they're back before Christmas break. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't for me. It's like, okay, we tried to explain this to you that, everybody was all state. Everybody was the best player on their team, man. And now how do you respond to that? And that's what I think SJV does. All of those girls get exposed to a high level of competition, whether it's in practice or whether it's, traveling out of state or playing other teams that are in a bigger perspective that gives them the ability that now when they go to college, oh, okay, I know where I stack up.
Yeah, and I'm big on that. With my SJV, like, we build our schedule out. We play national schedule. Like, I want to expose them to, like, the best, because, like, I love it. I'm competitive, so I love it.
Hell yeah.
But too, like, I think it's just great for the kids to see it, be exposed to it, and we've done fairly well with it, but like, it teaches you another level of competing, right? Like, there's levels to this shit.
Right.
You gotta know.
Yeah.
There's levels to it, so.
No, that's a great point. And as they're young, it's one of those things where it's like, know where you're at and embrace that you have everyone has different stages of development, right? So because Jane, who is much bigger in fourth grade,
exactly, it's going to dominate. Right,
it's going to dominate, and that may change as everyone goes through puberty and those
everybody catches up.
Everybody catches up, and some people who weren't coordinated get coordinated, and so on and so forth. So, like, embrace the state. Don't look at what other people are doing. Look at what you are trying to do for yourself.
Yeah,
you're in your own race at first, and then listen to people who understand what it is about, right? And seek that out. And but you're right. I mean, the part that has changed and is that they look for the quick fix and the Instagram videos and oh look how cool. And I think it's listen, yesterday I happened to see this and I don't really it just came to my mind right now as we were talking. But there's this, I guess, this 7th grade football player, 6th or 7th grade football player, and he has his own podcast with a guy. Okay, I'm not kidding. And you can find it if you look very briefly. You probably find it pretty quickly. And he's like a really obviously he's a very good football player. He's not super big. He's very small, but he's incredibly fast. He's one of the nation's fastest kids, I guess, right. in his grade. But they're putting his whole world. And he doesn't know any better. He's 7th grade. He's putting his whole world out there over and over and over and over again. Like he's got a podcast. He has his own drill manual. Okay, his own drill manual. Do the drills he does. Right. It's like, wait a minute. You mean have genetically as much speed as you had growing up, and then because we haven't in puberty yet, so we don't know where it's going to be. But that part of it becomes like with the wrong like situation going to high school, that person may never accomplish anything if he doesn't have the right people around him. He gets a coach that's doesn't leverage the fact that everything he does is gold, and then how does he react from that point forward, right? And it's so interesting how that I just saw it last night and I was like, is this actually? I thought it was actually comedy at first.
No, it's like,
and I realized it was real.
My son's in 7th grade. He's a baseball kid, right? He's big into baseball. My dad, his dad, him,
Right.
and he did the little league. So now they all go to the big field this year. But it's the same thing. Like you got these men in 6th grade little league hitting bombs, putting their videos up, like they're all on the props nation, like, and it's like, dude, like, what are they gonna look like when they're 16, when they're 18, when you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they haven't even gotten there yet, and the amount of like pub and
pressure,
and the stuff, the Instagram, the clicks, the highlights. I was like, this is another level. Like I'm in women's basketball and oh my god, baseball is like, it was nuts.
But baseball is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
because they have the perfect game thing, and
that's what I'm talking about. We're in perfect game, and this kid's got this, and they rank them every weekend, and I'm like, hey, my husband and I are like, we're not spending the money to send him to that. Like he's 12, you know what I mean? Like no, like there's no need right now. Like he needs to like go to speed and agility and like get stronger and like do his skills. Like, but so many guys the dads are throwing the money out at it because it's the clicks. It's
the clicks, and they think the clicks make the difference. And I think the part about the one I think positive thing about the transfer portal at NIL is that because the college at the highest level, they want players that are coming in now that are ready to go. Like all that other stuff, they need people that can play. Like,
at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
And
that's what I think.
At some point in their careers,
you're going to have to perform. You're going to have to actually do this. And that's what I think, that's why I love football, because it exposes you. And you can talk and you can post and you can do all that shit. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a time where you have to come to actually play. And that's when you really got to put up or shut up. And that's where, people get humbled real quick, and that's kind of really what it comes down to. It's difficult to watch some of these young kids have some of these platforms because like Dave said, they don't know any better, right? So whether it's a parent or a coach, you're building up so much pressure for these young adolescents who are just trying to figure out how to freaking keep their shoes tied, and that now, like, you have to perform at some point. And if you've created this buzz or this, clickbait where now all of a sudden, like, you're putting a target on that adolescent's back that I don't know if they're really equipped to handle, at that age. Like, right? Like, what are you ultimately doing for that? You think you're doing it right, but are you really? Because now when push comes to shove, shit, daddy's not with me out here, right? Like, I have to make this tackle. I have to make this tackle. And, oh, damn, I don't know if I really want to make this tackle. It humbles people real quick.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious your thoughts on this. And one of the most famous players in women's basketball right now is Paige Beckers from UConn, right? And what was wild in the loss to Tennessee was Gino. And in all the years I've followed UConn basketball, I played football there, so I'm friends with I'm from the 90s, so I'm friends with a lot of the women from that time period in the early 2000s, and Gino, for the first time, almost kind of was a little negative on Paige Beckers, who's been a star for the last 4 or 5 years. And I feel like when I watch stuff like that, I feel like part of it is Paige has become a celebrity, and is
as brand, right?
Yeah, jet sets all over the place, and is very. Listen, she's financially successful now, right? So as a college player. But she still has to play basketball, and it's the first time I've ever seen Gino really kind of question, like, where are we at, Paige, publicly? Like, where are we at in our development of being a great player. Where can we rise to be the team that we're hoping to be? Because right now, their Paige is a phenomenal player, but she hasn't taken UConn to where UConn has expected her to take them.
And that's old school Gino. That's him pressing the buttons, right? But now things have evolved. So he has had to play it a little bit tighter and he talks about it on his show. And I love it. Like, I went to Sacred Heart over in Connecticut, and when I was in college, that was in there at the peak, right? And it drove me crazy because it was this UConn everything, right? But now, obviously,
don't worry, Dawn. I feel the same way when I was there in 2004. They just got a new stadium, and they just went to FBS and all this UConn bullshit.
The whole state, but honestly, like Joe Kraus produces the show. He's a SJV alumni, and I love his coaching show and. There's some quotes, and he's like, years ago, I could like press those buttons, right? Like the girls that when you played, like because they're competitive and they're like, I'm going to challenge Stewie, and Stewie's going to like step up, and she's going to do it. But now he's like, now these kids come here, and if I start to press those buttons, they're like, oh my God. Yeah, like they almost aren't built to like handle that. So now
they crumble.
I think kind of kept it closer to the chest, but they're in the home stretch now, right? Like it's put up or shut up.
You're pushing, yep.
She's done. Like she's going pro. Like so, he's got to like go out there and publicly maybe push those buttons to like try to get the team where they need to go. I mean, that's mastermind Gino.
It's Gino 101 from 96 or whenever the shit, like early 2000s when they were going undefeated every year and nobody was whatever. His best players, and sometimes I think people, don't understand. Like they think you don't need to coach your best player, but like really, they're the ones that kind of shorted sometimes because coaches like bullshit that you need to still coach them the exact same, if not tougher than the other ones because of those situations to make sure everybody's looking to them, right? So they're the model. Like they need to be tight to the vest. I mean, and that's coaching 101.
Yeah, but how about
but like you said, it's in recent years you have to you've had to keep it closer to the vest because hey man, you do that, you lose that, now you lose 3-4 others. Like oh my God, like oh no,
I mean, like Tarasi or Stewie, like I mean 180 I don't know, like if they're in the NIL era, like can he do it the way he did it, or is it like it's just
right? Or are they just gonna pack up and leave? See you later, like bye. Like I don't need to be here. I can go make probably more money and really be the star, but because I don't really care to win a national championship. Like I just need to get my bag and I'm out.
But hindsight,
you're seeing that.
Like, they all come back now. They're at his anniversary, and they're like, it made me who I am. Like 4 years of going through that is like, there's not a day that goes by that I don't use something that I learned in those years that I was part of the UConn piece. So like. So what, are we helping these kids by bouncing, or are they learning? Yep. Are they not learning? Like we don't know. We don't even know what's going on.
Conundrum, right?
I think what you're doing, when you look at like, I like how you evaluate, your own performance, not just from the wins and losses standpoint, but what are your girls doing in college, and how are what places they choose to go to school. How are they performing? How are they handling some of those situations? And I think that's it's a really good barometer because they're able to look back and say, hey, and I think for the most part, women basketball players have made, for the most part, really much more sound decisions, honestly, when I watch versus men's football players. Because when I watch it in college, like some of the decisions that football players make are crazy. Men's basketball, like, is a little different in the sense that because of the one and done thing, you get where you can go pro. It's there's another parameter, I guess, in there that's part of the process, but I like to look at women's basketball and men's football because football you have to stay in for a while. Same thing with women's basketball. You really have to stay in a while to be able to go pro. And seeing how they handle that and for the most part. And then look, the nice thing is if you are really good, you as a women's basketball player, you can get what Paige is getting with some of the girls at the LSU or women at South Carolina and Tennessee and some of these other places are. And that's one of the great things about the game now. You see, and it's not. But my UConn friends get mad at me at this, but I say, thank goodness UConn is not the only game that like there was a while, and Gino took advantage of it, but where he was packing all the players on his team. You know what I mean?
And it can't happen anymore. You can't do that,
Can't do that anymore. So that makes basketball much better.
So much better.
So much better. Competition's better. You could lose to somebody that you wouldn't have thought you could lose to. Games are more games. Especially when you get to the SEC and the Big Ten, like all of those games are games. And it really makes the sport of women's basketball a lot better for that standpoint. But you see, women's basketball is really at the forefront of the women's movement of being able to really put women's sports on the map as something that's on TV on a regular basis. Because before it was really Olympic sports, and when you get track and field, you get gymnastics, that's when you'd see it. Women's basketball has put it on your schedule, and softball is now starting to do that as well. Sure. I think that's the second sport that's really starting to boom because you see it.
Volleyball's not far behind.
Volleyball.
Right there too. Yep. That's going to be the other piece. And
volleyball, that's one of the things where that's one of the I think few instances where AAU has really helped.
Yep.
The college portion of it, which is volleyball, because they run so many tournaments, and women's volleyball has really become a big deal. So,
all right, now that's my bell.
That's your bell.
That's the way to go, Coach. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. It's been amazing. Really
fun. It's great talk, man. I love it.
It's great talking. I feel the competitive vibe coming right through the screen, Coach. I love it. It's great.
All right, man. Best of luck. Thanks.
Have a really good day.
Take care, Coach. Good luck.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Now that is a competitor. Right?
As a player, as the coach, dude, as a developer, you know what I mean? Like, this is our process. This is how we do it. Look, like, it's there. And look, I've seen her practices. They're tough. And that's for a reason. And it's not tough like belittling or negative. Like, it is all with the greater good of the group, in mind, right? Like, you might be this person as a freshman, but as a sophomore, like, it's all strategic and a plan. But, even she referenced, which I think is what she's the best at, is she goes into a season with a plan, but she's willing to adapt and figure it out as it goes to make the best of what it is. And, whether or not she thought, X, Y, and Z, we're going to be X, Y, and Z, come the season, things happen and things, she maneuvers, she adapts, and her girls play tough. I mean, she talked about a defensive mentality. I mean, rebounds, loose balls, playing defense, like, that is the number one priority, yet producing, they score God knows how many points a game, or 1,000-point scorers here, or, you know what I mean? But the defensive aspect of it and the hustling and the toughness stuff is what she really is a staple of that program. And, when you play SJV or you play one of her teams, like, that's what you're getting. Like, you're gonna get, squeezed and made to feel uncomfortable on the defensive end from them. And that's really kind of where she makes her mark. It's awesome. It's really phenomenal program. And like you said, the girls that come out of there, it ain't about what level of ball you go to. It's what's the best fit for you. Right. And numerous players over and over that are just highly successful.
There's no doubt about that. I got the funniest question in the chat. Oh my goodness! They said, "Is Cooper DeJean a safety, or will he lock down your number one?"
Both.
People are so funny. Anyway, what I was gonna say? It's she's phenomenal. Listen, if I had a daughter and she was a basketball player, that's where you know what it reminds me of. when Toll was in his heyday, Hackensack and early Bosco,
Yep.
there wasn't anybody else that you wanted. If you could play for Toll, that's where you were going to go. You would go play, because it's like, that's like, here is clear cut. I'm
Right.
sure there are other coaches that are close to the best, but here's clear cut. If you're not going to say the person's the best, they are at least one of the top 2 or 3, no doubt about it. And you're not going to go wrong if you go and play for them. So really, really, and it was interesting too. I'm sure. I feel like she dealt with some things when she first became a coach.
She took a lot of shit, bro, for being a high level female, right? And everybody always wanted to, come at her from a certain direction, or you know what I mean? Like, well, who are you? And that's why I love talking to, like, you know what I mean? Like, coaches that are highly successful in other realms of whatever, because I mean, shit, like, and look, that's, we don't know, like, we've dealt with that in some version of it, right? But to have that, I love that. That's like a driving force. And she's like, you are the evil empire, and it doesn't come, you know what I mean? Like, look, the Patriots were a great story, and then all of a sudden everybody hated them and wanted to whatever and come at them. But for her to have to deal with some of that stuff that, as a highly successful woman, right? And because she has that competitive edge, right? If that were a guy, right, or a male, it would be embraced like no other. But because she's a female and she's supposed to, fit into this mold of how to act and do certain things, right? Like, it gets used against her. And for her to just be like, dude, I don't give a shit what any of you say. Like, here's how
it happens anytime you start to garner a certain level of success. And she's
absolutely, brother.
She's garnered extreme level of success. So
she's the measuring stick for every team, regardless of what it is, right? Like I said, if you play SJV and you lose by 10, right? Oh, wow, we only lost by 10. Or, she's getting everybody's best shot. Everybody's loading up for when they see SJV on a schedule, right? And she don't back down. Like you said, she talked about, going national and playing big, type games and getting her girls to travel and expose them to all of that. That's for her too, man. She loves that shit. She wants to play the best. If you're a competitor, you want to dial it up against the best, right? You don't just want to be undefeated playing shitbirds all the time. You know what I'm saying? No offense. Like, that's not a competitor. She is a competitor, and her girls, like, you feel that created where? Practice, right?
No doubt. The
she's awesome, dude. Coach football would be fine too.
Oh yeah, she would be fine, Coach. It's very funny, because no matter what level of success you get, someone's gonna criticize. You have to just be able to be built to move on from that. It's
brush it off. See you later. Cool.
I remember people. Well, why is my dog eating my camera? I remember when people were on that home game winning streak, and people were like, Paul Park, and they're like, well, he gets players from Hoboken. I was like, first time I heard that.
Well, look, you'll find something.
Someone said that to me, and I just started. I was laughing. I was like, did anyone say that when we were losing 45-7? That's the people that you're saying that about. They were also on the team when we were losing 45-7. They just happened to be freshmen at the time. Now they're seniors. Like those same kids were on the team 3 years ago. How it is, man. Like, everybody just wants to rain on, piss on the parade, dude. Like, look, you could be doing this too if you put in the work, right? Like, they don't know all the behind the scenes stuff. They don't know all that other kind of shit. It's just part of being successful. Is when you're successful, people want to come at you. It's actually, I always looked at it like, thank you. Like, it just gives me more fuel to work harder and prove you wrong, even more so. Because if it bothers you enough to have to, if you're spending time thinking about all this and all this other nonsense, like, I've obviously done my job. You know what I'm saying? So it's part of it. And you know what? You could see, like, even remember yesterday we had the Susquehanna coach on, and he was he was talking about like he's taking transfers. His two best players were transfers, but he was very like he didn't want to discourage high school kids by saying that like he really doesn't want to take a lot of transfers. But the truth of the matter is, this is the truth of the matter is that he's going to figure out the best players to help him succeed. And if it happens to be 3 more transfers next year, or if it's 3 more high school kids next year, whatever it is, right? Because I could see his head immediately thinking, I'm not losing the semifinals next year, 66-0. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even though he's accomplished an insane amount of stuff in his 10 years.
Damn right.
And like I said, that was a place that used to be a pretty good program, but he turned it into an elite program. And I'm sure it's the first thing he's thinking is like, okay, what do I have to get in? So now next time when we get in that battle, it's not 66-0. It's we have a chance in that game, right? It's amazing. I mean, look, where did that Division III school North Central come from? Where did the year before? Where did New York and what's it called
Cortland
come from, right? So hopefully that's not CTE kicking in there when I forget these names. I always worry about that. I already know
I got it, bro. We're good.
Well, you seem.
I ran into people for a living, bro. We're good. I know it's coming. I mean, shit. Let's just hope Avery's like way above and older by that point that she doesn't know my dad's forgetting shit.
Yeah. So it's like, it's the little things that you forget, not the
damn right.
But anyway, great show, great double header. That was like a home run double header today. Of people. And now you said tomorrow we are doing tomorrow.
Tomorrow we have Dan Fichter, who Coach Dixon talked about, like a lot of this, like mental stuff. That he was the first guy that started doing all the what's that
with an F. Fichter.
Yeah. Fichter.
Got it.
New York State guy. And like I said, he was the first guy to come in and do all of the zone 1, the zone 2, the zone 3, stuff. Like he was that's who Brad Dixon called to implement it for him. So he gave us a great segue.
That is a great segue. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Oh, dude, you're gonna be oh yeah. And it's a look, and that was that's where Mark Hoover said, hey, talk to so-and-so. And, you just feed the cats Colt. I
want into that Colt.
Dude, it's I'm telling you, the more, and it's obviously like I'm keep going down these rabbit holes, man. And it's and I get it. It's so hard to sell it because it's just so
it's hard to
different.
sell.
It's different than everything, like it goes against everything you've ever done as a coach in terms of less, right? Less, or just with almost everything. Like when is less ever better in a grand scheme of things, other than, how many slices of pizza we can eat? But like, you know what I'm talking about? Which never is an issue.
You're telling them to work harder. You want them to work.
You're telling them work smarter, not harder.
Smarter. That's the hard thing, because when you're growing up, when your kid,
especially with football
or any sport though, when your kid isn't doing what they're supposed to do, what do you tell them? Study harder, pay attention more, work harder.
Take more shots, right? Throw more balls, do more ladders. You need to do extra work.
But the key is, and I heard Maria Collins said this to me, I try to get them to focus on when you take a shot, that you're taking the best shot. Well, when you're shooting it to the best of your ability, meaning you're not just shooting to shoot, right? You're shooting it to the best of your ability. You're actually trying to make it in. You're not just throwing it up because mom or dad said take 100 shots, right? It's no longer take 100 shots, right? It's I need 25 makes. I need 20 makes, right? Yep. Like not 100, because when you say 100 shots, They're going to take 100 shots. They're just going to throw the thing up there. And what if it's 10 for 100?
Makes
so
sense.
25 makes. Listen, if you tell them 25 makes, now obviously it has to be a reasonable distance, but you tell them 25 makes, I guarantee their percentage of shooting is going to be a lot better than if you tell them 100 shots, right?
100%.
Because it's really that's working smart. Now, if you tell them to make it 25 times from half court, that's a ridiculous ask of somebody.
Correct.
The ask that you ask of them in makes has to be a reasonable asks. So if you're telling someone to sprint as hard, if they're a track kid and you say, I need you to run the mile as fast as you possibly can run the mile, that's not a reasonable ask, right? The reasonable ask is, give me 3 200s if you're a miler as good as you can, right? And that's the difference. Or if you're a 100-meter dash guy, you can't run 5 100s as fast as you can. You could run 3 or 4 30-yard dashes as fast as you can, right? And get that right. So those are – but that is – you're right. The mentality change for coaches on that, that's hard because you've all been like, work harder,
Dude, you've
more.
been conditioned and just straight, like, it's been drilled into your head from day one that more is always better. And, extra this, like, it's hard to, hey, you need to rest. Shit, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how many times when it's like, hey, all right, this is our dead week right before camp, do nothing. Well, hey, if you can get in a little bit of this, like, if you can get in a little bit of this, dude, it'll keep you with rest. Shit. I heard Tony Holler say yesterday, like, when he's getting ready for he gives his track kids their entire spring break off. Doesn't even see them. Don't come in the building. Don't come around. Like, 9 days, I think he said. Off. Nothing. That's scary for a coach, right?
Scary.
Right? Very scary. Like, oh, hell, this one's going to Cancun. This one's going here. But he showed the data. Like, they come back better. Like, shit, it's hard.
I'm going to give you a lesson I learned.
Oh,
it was very interesting. So, remember how winter workouts, they've just basically tortured you in college, right? It was just
my God, mat drills. They just beat the shit out of you.
Beat the shit out of you. So we would have spring break. In Holtz, we had spring break. We went away. And, other than if I don't think I ran 1 second, but like maybe I did a couple of sprints on my own, but I probably did very little. Went away spring break, came back.
You didn't do it. Shit.
Yeah. Came back. I felt phenomenal. Okay?
And when you feel that way, even in your head, like, I'm fresh. That's what Mark Hoover kind of talked about, right? Like,
so here's what was crazy. Here's what was crazy. This is how the mentality was back then. Appreciate this. Come back. I felt great. We had another week we had two winter workouts, and then we were going to get timed for the NFL because the NFL scouts would come spring ball at the end of winter workout. We get timed and they would have guys that would come in scouts. So we come in, and in my mind, I was always a hard worker. So we go, and when we have 2 winter workouts, I go out and I'm sprinting there. I feel great. I'm going hard. And you know what happened? Because they fucking went and buried you again. I partially tore my quad.
What injury did you have?
Partially tore my quad. Went through the next winter workout. They gave us like 2 days off, and then we timed our 40s. Okay. Now, I was literally at about 80%. I ran 4.66, which was great I was fast linebacker still. Ran 4.66. Okay.
Yeah. At what weight?
230. The only thing that I could think in my head the whole time was, if we had just timed me instead of doing this stupid 2 workouts, I probably would have been in the 4.5s, probably mid 4.5s.
Definitely.
And that would, so our coaches And not that couldn't have just happened to me. I'm sure it happened to other guys. I'm not saying they got hurt, but or tore, but were not as good as they could have been. How many guys timed and lost the 10th? How many guys who were fast that ran a 4 like a DB that ran a 4?
That's where the data collection, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, that's where all that stuff factors in. Right.
Now he didn't get looked at for the NFL. I'm not saying I would have got looked at more or not.
That's indifferent. That's not what we're talking about.
It's indifferent. It's really, I'm saying maybe there was a guy that would have was on that team that, you know, maybe the tight end who did go who went for us. Maybe he would have ran
even better.
Even better, right? So and he maybe would have gone higher or a lineman or whatever.
And would have made more money. I mean, there's a whole trickle down of dominoes. And
there's
shit
a trickle down effect of it, right? So that's what I thought about. I was like, wow, I ran fast. I'm like, how coaches are like, oh my god, it's so great. You ran 4.66 at 2:30.
You're like, dude, I could have ran faster.
I think I could have ran 4.5, dude, if you didn't bury me. Like, they're like, oh, don't worry about it. You're the fastest linebacker by far.
You're like, yeah, here.
Yeah, here, right. Right. So, but those are things as now that you're a coach, you can impart it to the next generation. That's why I think what Tony's doing is so important, is because we want to begin to educate, awesome. Like what level do you want to perform at? You know, what do you want to be at?
Yep.
And this can help you. You know, by the way, Dawn's mentality, Coach Carpell's mentality, like she's not just playing a basketball game with you; she's in a street fight with you, like. Dude. That's a street fight.
She's gonna claw and kick and do whatever she's got to do. And I'll tell you another thing too, right? Is that comes out like whether she's beating you by 50 or whether you're, you know, back and forth game, right? Like that is who she is, and that's who her team is, right? And they don't just like they don't coast and they don't start taking it like they are coming for 4 quarters of SJV basketball.
Absolutely.
This is how we do it. And that's that mentality that's instilled in those girls is why they now have success when they go to those next levels, right? There's no adjustment period to, oh, everybody's good. They've been around it, and they've been molded for 4 years of high school to this is how it's going to be. And it's more conducive to what a college environment or next level environment is. She coaches up here from the jump. You know, you put on that yellow and black jersey or whatever it is, dude. And this is the expectation, right? She talked about the standard of this program, and some girls aren't meant to do that. They're not programmed like that. It's why she's struggling right now with that whole youth piece. Are they going to be ready for what? Can they play for you, right? Is what people ask. Well, how do I figure that out? Well, it's in the damn gym, you know, when nobody's there and we're practicing, you know, it's hard.
Probably also means that she needs, like, whoever handles her freshman is going to have to be a better coach, because in the past,
absolutely.
In the past, she probably just needed someone to make sure they did what they were supposed to do. Yeah, to do the drills, to follow her system. But now she may need someone that's going to do development, right? Like maybe now she may have her. But
I will be honest, like, you know, if you go in there and you're a freshman and you're on the freshman team, you know what I mean? Like most of those freshmen that are those girls, they're usually up in that top 11,
I believe,
that are, you know what I mean? That team is already kind of developed in there, you know, but look, she also doesn't have to be like pounding the pavement to go out and be like, you need to come here. You're the best player. If you're the best player, you want to go to SJV.
You want to go.
Know what I mean? Kind of like, you know, like Toll had it when he was at Bosco. It's like, hey, dude, like I ain't got to freaking be like, you know, doing in-home visits like these fucking guys are now. Like, okay, I'd like to go to Bosco. Let's see. You're the right fit. Sorry, dude, you can go somewhere else, right? And you might go somewhere else and lead the state in rushing, but we're going to win every game by 56 points, and you're going to play in college, and you're going to do all this other kind of stuff. It's, you know, winning breeds winning. You know, it's one of those things that I always kind of, you know, have a staple at. But like, it just, when you're around it and you're around high-level talent, like you either raise your game to it or you ain't going to be around very long.
There's no doubt about it.
She's awesome, dude.
Awesome. All right. Awesome podcast. Until next time, I'll talk to you right after.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye. Great guest.